Good day, B's and G's. Today we're doing some Q's and A's, and I asked you guys, spiderweb. Hey now. I asked you guys a few questions, or asked you for your questions, on Instagram. If you can't tell, it's been a minute. I'm a little rusty with the old camera stuff, but let me break out the Instagram questions first, and then we're going to move on to the YouTube questions. But just wanted to kind of update you guys on where I'm at. I've been taking some time off just to recuperate, regenerate, and I feel way better about it. And I figured a good little icebreaker would be to just answer your burning questions. So we're going to start with Instagram. And the first one is, are you going to refresh the Carby motor or swap in an SI motor into the Prelude? The answer to that is most definitely getting rid of the carbureted motor. I will never spend another penny on it. I am done. I will say, looking at that Prelude makes me pretty sad right now to have this beautiful weather. It's summertime. Would really like to be driving it. So I'm going through this internal battle at the moment of, do I really want to send it, take this thing down a chassis, miss out on summer driving, and just all of that. So it's something I'm dealing with, and I'm trying to figure out what the best play is. But to answer your question specifically, I will not be dumping any more money into the carbureted motor. If I do decide to basically piece it back together to drive it around for the summer and into the fall, because it stays nice down here for a lot longer than other areas of the country, especially where I used to live, I may spend some money on like an oil change. I actually think I have an oil change for that car, filter and everything, just sitting in the garage. So I may spend money on things like gasoline for it and an oil change, but I'm not going to be buying any more parts for it. If I decide to put it back together and drive it for the summer months, I will not be dumping any money if it breaks. If it breaks and things go wrong, I'm just full send committing to putting that car down until it's got a new motor. And while we're on that subject, the new motor is likely going to be, for sure fuel injected. I'm done with the carbureted stuff. I'm thinking something along the lines of an H22, possibly an F series. I've heard great things about both. With what I want to do with the Prelude, ultimately, the only downside to the H is that it's a really tall motor. And the Prelude you've seen the nose of it. It's so narrow. There's not a lot of room for a big motor in there. So it can be done. It has been done for sure with the H swap, but I do know that you can't necessarily ride as low as you would like, or at least as low as I would like. But hey, if there's a will, there's a way. And I think ultimately, I guess I can share this with you. Ultimately, I'd love to bag the car, because I just think that having an H in there, it'd be nice to lift the car up while driving, and then if it's really flat roads or something, I guess I could air out and get a better stancy looking ride height. But I just kind of loved having the air ride suspension on the BMW. And now that I don't live in a part of the country where I have to worry about freezing temps all the time for like 6 to 8 months out of the year, it will be a lot easier to manage an air ride suspension with that car. So, an H, I think, would be a solid motor to put in there. I've heard, 1, it's very tall, and then 2, it burns a lot of oil just naturally. So I don't have experience with that. I'm just hearing from you guys, basically what your guys' experience is with that. And obviously I'm not the first, I'm not probably even the 100th person to put an H into a Prelude. So that's something I'm looking forward to, is there's already a lot of documentation on it. There's already aftermarket parts, engine mounts that are available to do that kind of swap. So something I'm leaning towards, just because I'm kind of done trying to deal with the whole carbureted thing, make things work. And we'll see, H or maybe an F series. I think the F, somebody just mentioned to me that they're about the same height. So, that was kind of my only push to go to an F, was I thought it would be a shorter motor, and that would alleviate that issue a bit. So if one of you guys can confirm or deny that, that would be great. When are we hanging out? Brother, very soon. Very, very soon. I'm super proud of you for getting your next gig in the flying world, and very excited to hang out with you again soon, man. I hope we're doing some some fishing, some camping or something here very soon before the weather changes, but we've got lots of time. But hey man, congratulations on the new gig. Everybody give Evan a thumbs up down in the comments. He is moving leaps and bounds in the direction that he wants to go career-wise, so let's give him a hand. What makes doing YouTube worth it? The community? Creating the videos? That is a phenomenal question, and I've got something crawling on my leg. And the other leg. So kind of three-part question there. What makes doing YouTube worth it? Well, for me, in my last kind of not video-related job, I really struggled with the lack of creativity in my life. I felt so mundane, and I've always been a kind of a creative person. I grew up drawing. I was really into like illustrating graffiti, not necessarily spray painting it illegally, but just drawing in books. Really loved drawing cartoons when I was a kid. I would make my own comic books and just all sorts of stuff. And then when I got a computer, I started a little bit in graphic design. And somewhere along the lines, I got kicked in the arse by adulthood, and it just kind of fell to the wayside. And so for me, having a YouTube channel really fulfills that bucket for me. I love that it allows me to be creative, not only with the camera, but also in post when I'm editing. And that's kind of, I mean, the camera, sometimes I just put it on and, you know, see what happens. And then I find that my most creative ideas kind of come to life while I'm editing. And I think hopefully that shows. You know, I do take a lot of influence and inspiration from other creators, but I also, at the end of the day, really like to just do my own thing and make my own type of content. So I hope you guys can kind of see that. Am I missing anything? Oh, and then also, you know, I'd still love for YouTube to be a full-time thing and then pick up other kind of production jobs as I see fit. I would love to just make these videos for you guys full-time, but I've always been on this kind of wave, you know, up and down, where in between gigs, I will take YouTube super seriously and then pump out a lot of content, and then work gets busy and I kind of have to just set it aside. And for example, right now, like, it's just been hectic over the last few months work-wise, and I just haven't been able to push out the content as much as I want to. And if I had like a channel where I played video games or something, you know, it'd be a lot easier to just make content on a more regular basis. But because I want to give you guys, you know, Prelude content, truck content, it either takes money to buy the parts to install on the videos, or it takes a lot of time, or both. Usually a lot of time goes into planning these videos and finding a little stint of free or downtime when I can actually do it. So, you know, ultimately, I would love to just be a creator on this platform, make you guys an immense amount of content, and do so on a regular basis. I'm still striving for that. That has not left my mind for a moment. Unfortunately, YouTube doesn't quite pay the bills yet, so that's just where we're at. And I think down the line, I'll eventually make it, you know. It's only a matter of time, because I think truly, as long as you're running your race and you don't stop and you don't turn around and you don't give up, you know, it's inevitable that you're going to get to where you're trying to go. It's only a matter of time. So we'll get there, folks. We will get there, and the content will be more impressive and for sure happening on a more regular basis. Let's see, the second part of that question, is it the community? Is it creating the videos? The community is awesome, and that is why I started it in the first place. The creative side, that bucket and filling it for me was part of it, but I initially started doing YouTube really because I was asking a ton of questions on Instagram and on YouTube with other creators. At the time, I had a BMW. I was asking tons of questions and getting the answers, and I wanted to kind of give that back to the community as I learned things and tried things out for myself. And I think the Prelude just happened to be such a great vehicle for that, because it's not very popular on the internet, as I'm sure many of you know. So I saw the need, I saw the community eagerly asking questions about it, and I just wanted to give back, do my share, and not just be take, but have a nice give and take balance. So that was kind of why I did it for the community. and then also the creative side. So 3 answers to that to summarize. 1, give back to the community. 2, basically have my own career that I can be in charge of, and then also fulfill that creative bucket. And I like to say that I'm a bit of an artiste in that way. And I love it. It's just so much fun. All right, next question. Will you ever sell the Prelude? No, I will not. Fight me. I'm just kidding. Good question. I really would love to have that car be a legacy. I could see myself one day, I'd park it in my living room as like just an ornament or a decoration if it didn't want to drive or I couldn't get it to drive anymore, which probably never happened. If the world keeps going the way it's going, I will put a freaking electric motor in that thing before I let it just sit. So that car will always hold a special place in my heart, and I do not really want to sell it ever. Hopefully circumstances don't arise where I need to, and even if they did, I could never see myself parting ways with that car. I also would love to be able to pass that down. If I have kids one day, that would be such a cool thing to pass down, especially because I've been so hands-on with it, and just, that would be a legacy car for me. Kind of a short answer to that. I don't want to sell it. What was your favorite part of vacation? You. 100% it was you. If I can't cheat by saying that, just getting out to a different part of the country that I've never seen before was so cool. And then to share that experience with somebody else was even better. But being in that part of the country, place I've never been, doing things that I'd never done, we caught trout. I don't know if I've ever caught trout before. And that was just, I went into it thinking like, oh, I'm not going to catch a trout, because when I was a kid doing it last time, probably nearly 2 decades ago, not to date myself, but, I remember going out there in Oregon trying to fish for trout and not having any luck. So in my mind, it was almost like this rare, impossible fish. So very cool to have caught trout. We caught a rainbow trout, I think brook trout, brown trout. So just unbelievable. Camping out in BLM land was super cool. I went to Colorado, southeastern Colorado, if I'm not mistaken. And it was just, I needed every minute of that. It was amazing. And next question is worst and best thing about the Lude. Okay. Worst thing about the Prelude. Right now, it has to just be the amount of work that needs to be done on it. It's unfortunate the state that the body and the chassis are in. I mean, I've seen worse for sure, so I'm not going to sit there and say it's an impossible task, but right now it feels like an impossible task. And I've said it before in my videos, I've touched Bondo, I've done some body work, but I know the right way to do it is to cut out. Sorry, I can hear all the deer running in the back. I know the best thing to do is not Bondo. It is to cut out the bad, rusted out metal and weld in new stuff. So that is part of the project, and part of the holdup is I don't know how to weld. I do not have a welder. And at this very moment in time, I don't have anyone that could come over and just show me a little bit about what I'm doing. So, which is no problem. Everything I've done, I've kind of self-taught on YouTube or whatever. And that's probably what I'll do with this, but it's a daunting task, and I want to see it completed. But right now it just feels very much like the biggest hurdle I have to jump. So before, I would say the hardest part about owning the Prelude was just the lack of parts, especially for the carbureted motor. There's hardly any documentation on it. I could probably pinpoint 5 or 6 websites that have some valuable information on the carbureted motor specifically, and outside of that, no one's talking about it anymore. No one's selling parts for it anymore, and you're just kind of left with this ugly puzzle of a motor in that thing that I just don't even know what to do with, or how to fix, or how to improve. It's kind of my own fault. I never went to school for mechanics. I didn't grow up with carbureted motors that me and my dad were wrenching on. That wasn't it. So I really don't know what to do with it. And I would say the lack of parts and, even aftermarket parts, you know, obviously I love to modify cars and make them my own. That has just been a struggle the whole time owning that car, because there's been times where I wanted to spend a lot of money on it and make it exactly what I wanted, but I just couldn't find the parts for it. So, you know, it's also a challenge. I mean, it's also a good thing because it creates a challenge, and I do like challenges, and I like to, at the end of the day, say that I overcame a challenge. So it's a good and a bad thing. And then the best thing about the Prelude, in my opinion, is it is just a time machine. It is, every time I drive that car, I will be smiling nonstop. I mean, the way it handles, it's not a fast car, but the way it handles is so fun. Swapping it to a manual transmission was the best thing I could have ever done for that car. Also, best thing is it's outside of the carbureted motor. I know I just gave it a really bad rap there, but it's also kind of easy to work on. Like, nothing is super complicated. There's not a lot of electronics. I've got crank windows. I've got manual door locks. You know, a lot of it is very simplistic in a way, which for me, that was kind of the first car that I really started wrenching on and really getting into the nitty gritty with. The BMW a little bit, but there was always a video on how to do something, and I was just following instructions. With the Prelude, I could just go out there with a Phillips head screwdriver and a 10 mil and just start taking stuff apart and then easily put it back together. So it has given a lot of confidence to me in the world of automotive or cars, I guess. It's given me a lot of strength to know that I can do it, and as long as I stay motivated to do it, it'll get done. And I think a lot of you guys have said the same thing. I mean, I can't tell you how many people all across this world, South Africa, Malaysia, all over Europe. I've got, 16-year-olds in the comments saying, "Hey man, I just got a Prelude for my first car, and I'm so excited to start wrenching on it." That is amazing. That is why I have this channel, and giving back to the community, inspiring others to keep those things alive. The Prelude's in the garage, by the way, on all 4 jack stands still, so that's why I keep pointing in that general direction. So ultimately, I just think it's a great car to learn on. If you have the fuel-injected motor, I think you're a little bit better off, and just keep wrenching on them, guys. Keep those things alive, because they're only going to become fewer and fewer, harder to find, harder to get parts for, and I just think anything you can keep on the road is so cool. And I'll always say, as much as this world wants to move towards electric vehicles and battery this, battery that, I think it's way more responsible to keep a car from 1988 on the road than it would be to buy a new Tesla every 3 years. And guess what? Those batteries, you can't do anything with them once they're done. They just are going to be on this earth rotting, I guess, or not rotting, because it's actually, in my opinion, more harmful to the environment than if you just keep that 30-year-old car on the road. Humble opinion. Beg to differ. Let's fight about it in the comments. Now let's go ahead and jump over to YouTube and see what kind of questions we got. I've got a question here asking about the truck camper shell, which I think I'll make a whole separate video on what's going on with the Tacoma. It's not necessarily bad, but I feel a bit at a standstill. Maybe we'll talk about it at the end of this video. He's asking about the insulation for the camper shell and what kind of carpet and all that. So the insulation is, and I have videos on this, if you just search on my channel, camper shell build, you will find it. It is actually just Reflectix. You can buy this at Home Depot, any kind of hardware store has it. It is kind of expensive for just being basically bubble wrap, but I basically put down Reflectix first using 3M Super 77 adhesive. I sprayed the fiberglass, and then I sprayed the insulation, gave it a minute to tack up, and then holy turbo, that sounded good. Gave it a minute to tack up, and then stuck it on there and just rolled it out with my hands, stuck it on there really nice. And as far as the adhesion process, that was the same for I'm actually going to call it more like speaker carpet than boat carpet. When I think of boat carpet, I think of something more weatherproof and a little bit more durable. I did think about using that, but I felt that it wouldn't really mold into the curves of the fiberglass shell as well as speaker carpet. So basically what you're 14 years old, you go, or maybe not 14, you're 18 years old and you go and buy a massive subwoofer for the back of your first car, and that subwoofer comes in a big box. What's wrapped in that box, that carpeting, is basically what I used to line the camper shell. And I spent some time on Amazon just trying, or I think it was either Amazon or eBay. I just spent some time trying to find one that people were saying would work well with Velcro. That was pretty important to me because at the time I was thinking I was going to do my curtains with Velcro, and I wanted the hook part of the Velcro to be able to stick to the carpeting. So it's not perfect, but it will stick. That's what I got for you. Oh, and then the other thing is for condensation problem. I'm assuming that's a question. Yes. So when I used to camp in that thing with just the fiberglass, it on the inside, it definitely condensated like a mofo. And I would wake up and there would just be like droplets, falling. Now I haven't had that issue at all. The carpet does a great job of soundproofing it a bit, also gets rid of the condensation. And in the winter months, I think it keeps a little bit more of that heat intact. Also, probably the Reflectix is helping out there. This is a comment on the CB7 Accord. Coolant will keep a vehicle from starting? ? From starting? I don't know if I want to say that, but it will certainly, at least in my history with Hondas, it causes a lot of issues. And especially if you have like idle air control valve. I'm not a mechanic, guys, but I've just, in my experience, if you do a good job of bleeding your coolant and you don't have a ton of air bubbles in there, things just seem to work better when it comes to starting and idling. Fact check me, do whatever you want. Let me know if I'm wrong. I love to learn new things, but that's my humble opinion is yes, coolant will keep a car from starting nicely. That's what I'm going to say there. I like your username, Paul Wall. Like your vids. I can't remember if you mentioned in other vids, but what's your suspension setup? And he is referring to the Tacoma. So in the front, I have actually some Bilstein shocks with some Old Man Emu upgraded springs. They are not the very heavy duty ones. I don't remember the exact part number, but it's basically set up the weight wise, the spring rate is set up for a stock Tacoma, but it allows for about a 2-inch lift in the front. And by the way, this just made for a great microphone, but also I'm selling these. These are for the rear of a first gen Tacoma. If you have about a 2 to 3 inch lift, these will work perfect. So if you need some, these are basically brand new. I installed them and then realized they're not going to work and I took them off. So brand new. If you need them, hit me up. And then for the rear suspension on the Tacoma, I did Chevy 63 leaves. So I found a guy who was selling a set of Chevy 63 leaf packs. I think he pulled from a junkyard, and those are just really common leaf packs out of, from 1990 all the way up to 2010 or something. It's a long range of Chevy trucks that had them, and they're leaf packs for a half-ton pickup truck. The Tacoma is hardly a quarter-ton pickup truck, so in my opinion, it was going to support the weight of the camper shell, the camper build-out inside the camper shell a little bit better. Now, I'm still running into issues with this where the back end is a little bit taller than I want it to be. I've tried removing the overload leaf. I think that's a great move because they're super flexy and it off-roads like an animal. However, the back end is still too tall, and I think that may be because I'm running 6-inch shackles, which I think they were, I want to say not rough country. Hold on. Sorry, I had to check the emblem on the shackles. It is low range off-road. It's a Chevy 63 swap kit that I used. And again, they have 6-inch shackles on them, and actually this is a great time to talk about this. I do not understand vehicle geometry, and especially in trucks and all that. So my thought is if I get shorter shackles, let's say I have 6-inch shackles now eye to eye, if I did 3.5 or 4-inch shackles, that should drop the back end of the truck. Am I right or am I wrong there? I do know, or from what I've read online, is people are saying that if you get, let's say I get 4-inch shackles versus the 6, it's not going to drop it a whole 2 inches. It may drop it 1.5 inches. So it doesn't quite equate to the size of the shackle being the drop that you get. But my thought is, if I get shorter shackles, that should bring the rear of the truck down a bit. So, and then I have a little bit longer than this rear shocks back there. I think they're like 14 or 15-inch shocks instead of, don't quote me. They're just a little bit longer than these because the Chevy 63 leaf packs flex so much. If I were to have run these, they would have basically snapped these shocks, and it would have not worked out at all. So I needed something longer. Here's a question for the Prelude. What coilovers can fit? If you're asking like from other vehicles, I've heard people piecing together, I want to say like Integra coilovers, but then they have to swap out the fork or something on them. It's a very like custom job. There's not really a direct bolt-on. Like you can't just take a Civic coilover and run it in a 3rd-gen Prelude, and you can't even take the Integra, at least to my knowledge, and run it in a 3rd-gen Prelude. You'll have to modify things. I'm running Megan Racing coilovers. They were about like $900 when I bought them back in 2019 maybe. And I know K-Sport offers some. There's some other more specialized companies that do make coilovers for these cars. So in fact, I would say there's more options now than when I was looking for them. When I was looking, I only remembered Megan Racing and the K-Sports, and the K-Sports were like an extra $100. So I went with the Megan Racings, and so far they've done the trick. I run them full stiffness on the dampening, and it works out pretty well. You know, my tire setup is pretty aggressive, so I had to roll the fenders to make it drive a little bit nicer. But yeah, I would say K-Sport, Megan Racing are your options, at least easily attainable. And then if you're wanting to modify something, I know there's a way. I think Integra coilovers are what you want to start with, and then you just have to modify the mounting points. So this, I actually remember reading this one. Is it pronounced Prelude or Prelude? Pre or pray? Just like the word prepare or pre-existing. Very nicely, like, that's a great question, and you worded it very nicely because I totally understand exactly what you're saying. I say prelude, like as in like prelude. I have heard that it's prelude, and I've heard or I've watched Honda commercials, and you know, from the 80s when they were selling these things in the early 90s, and I feel like it's kind of in the middle, man. It's like prelude. I say prelude. I say it however you want. I guess spelling wise, it is probably more like pre, but I've been saying prelude for years, so prelude, you decide. I get a cracking noise when I'm braking to a full stop. Could that be lower ball joints? And this question is for the Toyota Tacoma. I would definitely say check those out because, yeah, I can imagine if you've got some play in your lower ball joints, when that truck comes to a full stop and that motor up front is all the weight's there and coming to a stop, if that ball joint is loose at all, that is exactly where I would start first, is checking out those lower ball joints. That is the bad thing about these trucks, is they are not. Basically what happens is the ball joint, literally the ball separates from the joint itself, and it can be quite catastrophic. So I'm not going to tell you how to do it. It's very simple how to check them. Just do a quick YouTube search on checking 1st gen Tacoma and 3rd gen 4Runner. It's the same ball joints. I check mine at least a couple times a year, and I've already replaced both sides. I think I replaced the driver's side like twice now. Especially if you wheel them, you know, it's a little bit harsher on those ball joints. So definitely keep a close eye on it. Now, I don't want to be lazy here and say that that's the only thing that could be a cracking noise when I'm braking. I would say inspect your upper control arm bushings, and you do have a ball joint on the upper control arm as well, so I would not totally negate looking at that. But yeah, I don't think it would be tied necessarily to your brakes or anything, but definitely a suspension component that is worn out or very tired. Did you have to upgrade your upper control arms? Again, on the Tacoma, I have not yet. I wouldn't say I have to, but actually my upper ball joints are pretty much rocked up there. So I'm looking at JBA upper control arms, and I know people rave about them because they're red. For me, I hate the red. I might even paint them black just so that way they look a little more OEM. Everything with this Tacoma, I just want to keep it OEM looking at least. And so JBA, I'm probably going to get here very soon. Instead of spending money on new Toyota ball joints, I'm just going to go JBA and suck it up, paint them so that way they're not obnoxious red, because that just wouldn't go with anything on that truck. All right, I'm going to say we're going to do 2 more questions. Here's a good one I get a lot of the time is, how did you mount the side skirts? And this is for the 3rd gen Prelude. So he's referring to the Accord side skirts that I modified to make work. I am disappointed to tell you that I basically just used self-tapping screws to screw it in, probably 6 of them on each side, give or take. Don't do this. This is not the way to do it. I wish I had just either double side taped them, and then, because they're so lightweight, they would probably stick for a long time, and then maybe like once a year you might have to put new tape on it or something, but that would have been much better than me drilling holes into my rockers. So again, kind of what I'm dealing with now. I wouldn't say they rusted out very much, but now I want to go back and fill those holes. So if you're going to do it and you really want to do it right, nut certs are going to be the way to go. Nut certs, and then make sure you silicone so that way no rust or anything gets in there, and that's the way to go. Nut certs, screw them on, take them off as needed. Nut certs. Okay, for the Prelude, how does your interior look now with the Duplicolor? Can we get a review update of how it's holding? So yes, that's a great question. The Duplicolor I put on, that Prelude used to have a blue interior. It now has like 90% of it is black. I still have to replace the carpet. However, and you'll probably notice this in your own Prelude, there are an array of different types of plastics in there. Some of it, like the dash, I've had no issues like that. It hasn't faded. It actually matches the OEM black center console that I picked up from the junkyard. It's a great color match. I think SEM, S-E-M, makes an even better looking black interior paint. So I would maybe look that route instead of Duplicolor, but SEM was quite expensive and I didn't want to necessarily wait for shipping because I didn't know how many cans I was going to need. And it was a good amount of cans to do that whole interior. Now there are some plastics like the door handles. If you have manual cranking windows, that plastic, especially on the little circular part that you actually grip, that has kind of peeled off or faded off, if you will. There's a few spots like down in the kick panel area where, my shoe brushes it and scratches a little bit of the paint. So I think ultimately the better route would be to get a full black interior from another Prelude and put that in there. However, it did the trick. I'm happy with it. I'm still glad I did it with the Duplicolor, although SEM might have been a better route. And also make sure you use a plastic adhesion promoter. That I think has helped the paint stick a lot better. If you were to just, spray on the Duplicolor, I don't know if it would necessarily work out for you as well. So spend a little extra money, get the adhesion promoter. It might do wonders for you. So I think that's going to be it for this one, guys. I just wanted to kind of hit record on the camera and get some content out for you guys because it's been a little bit. I've been doing life, in a good way, in a very good way. But I also miss you guys and I wanted to put some content out there. So if anybody needs some Bilsteins for the rear of their 1st gen Tacoma, 3rd gen 4Runner, and you have a 2 to 3 inch lift, I got you. Hit me up, boo. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. And honestly, I don't even know what that's going to be yet, which is pretty exciting. It might be a truck thing. It might be a Prelude thing. I'm not sure. So stay tuned. I love you guys. Keep elevating, my friends. Adios.